The courthouse steps felt colder than they should have on that crisp October morning in Portland, Oregon. I stood there, clutching my worn leather purse against my chest, watching the early autumn leaves skitter across the concrete like they were running away from something. At 62 years old, I never imagined I'd be standing here, about to finalize a divorce after 37 years of marriage. My name is Isabel, and this morning marked the end of everything I thought I knew about my life. The building loomed before me, all gray stone and authority, making me feel smaller than my 5'3" frame already did. I glanced at my phone, 8:47 a.m. The hearing was scheduled for 9 o'clock. Robert, my soon-to-be ex-husband, was supposed to meet me here 15 minutes ago. Typical. Even on the day we were legally ending our marriage, he couldn't show me the basic courtesy of being on time. I climbed the steps slowly, my knee aching in that familiar way it did when the weather changed. Inside, the courthouse buzzed with quiet activity. Lawyers in sharp suits rushing past, their shoes clicking importantly against the marble floors, people sitting on wooden benches looking either bored or anxious, and security guards checking bags with practiced indifference. I found a seat near courtroom 4B and waited, and waited. My attorney, Michelle Chen, found me at 8:58. She was a petite woman in her early 40s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a no-nonsense approach that I'd come to appreciate over the past 8 months. "Isabel," she said, sitting beside me, "is Robert here yet?" I shook my head, feeling that familiar mixture of anger and embarrassment. "No, I haven't heard from him." Michelle's jaw tightened slightly. "I'll try calling his attorney again." She stepped away, phone pressed to her ear, her expression growing more concerned with each passing second. At 9:05, the bailiff called our case. Michelle returned to my side, looking troubled. "Robert's attorney says he can't reach him either. This is highly unusual." We entered the courtroom, a space that felt simultaneously too large and suffocatingly small. The judge, a stern-looking woman in her 50s named Judge Patricia Harrison, looked up from her papers as we approached. "Where is the defendant?" she asked, her voice carrying the weight of someone who'd seen too many people waste the court's time. Michelle explained the situation while I stood there feeling like I might dissolve into the polished floor. The judge's expression shifted from impatience to something resembling sympathy as she looked at me. "Mrs. Montgomery," Judge Harrison said directly to me, "I'm going to grant a 30-minute recess to allow Mr. Montgomery time to appear. However, if he fails to show, we will proceed without him, and the consequences will be entirely his responsibility." Those 30 minutes felt like 30 hours. I sat on the bench outside the courtroom, my hands folded in my lap, trying not to think about all the times Robert had disappointed me over the years, the missed anniversaries, the forgotten birthdays, the promises broken so casually they might as well have been made of tissue paper. My phone buzzed, finally, but it wasn't Robert. It was my daughter, Sarah. "Mom, how's it going?" Her voice was tight with concern. "Your father hasn't shown up," I said quietly, not wanting the strangers around me to hear the crack in my voice. Sarah exhaled sharply. "Are you kidding me? Mom, I'm so sorry. Do you want me to come down there?" "No, honey. You're at work. I'll be fine. Michelle is here with me. Call me the second it's over, okay? I mean it. I will. I love you. Love you too, Mom." When we reconvened, the courtroom felt even more imposing without Robert there to share the weight of the moment. Judge Harrison looked at his empty chair with obvious displeasure. "Counselor Chen, please proceed with your client's case." What happened next felt surreal. Michelle presented our settlement agreement, the one Robert and I had supposedly both agreed to weeks ago. She outlined the division of assets, our house in the suburbs that we'd bought when Sarah was just a baby, the retirement accounts we'd built together, Robert's pension from his 29 years as an electrical engineer, and my smaller savings from my years as a part-time bookkeeper. But as Michelle spoke, something seemed off. She kept pausing, frowning at the papers in front of her, comparing them to her tablet screen. "Your Honor," Michelle finally said, "I apologize, but I'm noticing some significant discrepancies in the settlement documents that were supposed to be filed by opposing counsel." Judge Harrison leaned forward. "What kind of discrepancies?" "The division of the retirement accounts appears to have been altered from our agreed-upon terms, and there's an addendum here regarding the marital home that I've never seen before." My stomach dropped. What had Robert done? The judge requested to see the documents. For several minutes, the only sounds in the courtroom were the rustle of papers and the quiet hum of the ventilation system. I sat there, my heart pounding, wondering how my life had become this nightmare. "Mrs. Montgomery," Judge Harrison finally said, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Did you review these settlement documents before today?" "I reviewed what my attorney sent me 2 weeks ago," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "We both agreed to the terms then." "Well, someone has certainly made unauthorized changes." The judge's tone could have frozen water. "Changes that would have been significantly to your detriment, Mrs. Montgomery." Michelle's face had gone pale. "Your Honor, if I may—" "You may not, Counselor." "Not yet." Judge Harrison turned to the court clerk. "Please make copies of both the original agreed settlement and these altered documents. I want both versions on record." As we waited, Michelle leaned close to me. "Isabel, did Robert have access to the final settlement documents?" "His attorney would have," I said. "But Robert himself? I don't know how he could have—" I stopped. "Wait. About a month ago, Robert came by the house, said he needed to pick up some old tax documents from the file cabinet in the den. I let him in. I was trying to be civil." Michelle's expression turned grim. "Our case files are digital, but his attorney might have printed copies. If Robert saw them when he visited his attorney's office—" The implications settled over me like a heavy blanket. Robert had tried to cheat me. Even now, at the very end, he couldn't just let me have what was fair. Judge Harrison spent the next 20 minutes reviewing both versions of the settlement agreement. When she finally looked up, her expression was thunderous. "I am going to make a ruling that Mr. Montgomery will find most unfortunate when he finally decides to grace us with his presence," she said. "Due to his failure to appear and the clear evidence of document tampering, I am awarding Mrs. Montgomery the terms of the original settlement agreement, plus an additional 15% of all jointly held accounts as penalty for this attempted fraud." I felt Michelle's hand squeeze mine under the table. "Furthermore," the judge continued, "I am ordering that Mrs. Montgomery be granted sole ownership of the marital home, with Mr. Montgomery to be compensated from other marital assets at a value determined by an independent appraiser. The original settlement had you splitting the home's value after sale, correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," Michelle confirmed. "Well, Mrs. Montgomery shouldn't have to uproot her life because her husband is both a cheat and a coward." Judge Harrison signed several documents with decisive strokes. "Is there anything else you need addressed today, Counselor Chen?" Michelle glanced at me, and I saw a flicker of something in her expression, an idea forming. "Actually, Your Honor, there is the matter of my client's share of Mr. Montgomery's pension benefits. Given the circumstances, might the court consider—" "I'm already considering it," Judge Harrison interrupted. "Mrs. Montgomery, you were married for 37 years, is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And Mr. Montgomery was employed for how long during that marriage?" 29 years. He started his career 3 years before we married." The judge made some notes. "I'm awarding you 65% of his pension benefits earned during the marriage, rather than the 50% originally agreed upon. Consider it compensation for the emotional distress and legal complications he's caused today." I couldn't speak. The numbers were spinning in my head, but more than that, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: vindicated, seen, protected. "Mrs. Montgomery," Judge Harrison said, her tone softening slightly, "I've been on this bench for 19 years. I've seen a lot of people at their worst, but I've also learned that when someone shows you who they really are, you should believe them. Your husband showed you today who he is. I hope you'll remember that if he comes around trying to make you feel guilty about this settlement." "Yes, Your Honor," I managed to say. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. This is what you deserved all along. He just made it easier for me to ensure you got it." She banged her gavel. "We're adjourned." Outside the courtroom, Michelle was practically vibrating with excitement. "Isabel, do you understand what just happened in there?" "I think so," I said, still feeling dazed. "But can you explain it again, in simple terms?" We sat on a bench in the hallway, and Michelle walked me through everything. The house, the beautiful 3-bedroom colonial with the garden I'd spent 2 decades perfecting, was now entirely mine. Robert would be paid his share from other assets, but I wouldn't have to sell it or move. The retirement accounts that we'd both contributed to would be split more favorably in my direction. And the pension that Robert had always acted like was his alone, even though I'd supported him through years of night school and career changes, I'd get a significantly larger share than originally planned. The alterations he made to the documents actually worked against him, Michelle explained. If he'd just shown up and accepted the original agreement, he would have walked away with more. But by trying to cheat you and then not even having the courage to face the consequences, he handed Judge Harrison the justification she needed to penalize him severely. So what happens now? I asked. Now, I file all of this paperwork, the judgment gets recorded, and in about 30 days, your divorce will be finalized. Robert can try to appeal, but given that he failed to appear and there's clear evidence he tampered with the settlement documents, no judge is going to look favorably on that. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Robert. Sorry I couldn't make it this morning. His text read, had a work emergency. Can we reschedule? I showed Michelle the message. She laughed, actually laughed. He has no idea what just happened, does he? Should I tell him? He'll find out soon enough when he talks to his attorney. But if you want my advice, don't respond at all. Let him figure it out on his own. I nodded, feeling a strange sense of calm settling over me. For 37 years, I'd responded to Robert's demands, accommodated his schedule, forgiven his oversights. Not anymore. I walked out of that courthouse with Michelle by my side, carrying the settlement file, thick with documents that guaranteed my financial security and independence. The October sun had burned off the morning chill, and the leaves that had seemed so frantic earlier now looked beautiful as they danced in the breeze. You okay? Michelle asked as we reached the parking lot. I think I'm better than okay, I said, surprised by the truth of it. I think I'm actually going to be fine. Better than fine, Michelle corrected. You're going to be great. We exchanged a quick hug before she headed to her car. I stood there for a moment, just breathing, just being. Then I pulled out my phone and called Sarah. Mom, how did it go? I couldn't help but smile. Honey, you're not going to believe what just happened. As I drove home through the familiar streets of Portland, past the coffee shop where I'd spent countless mornings after dropping Sarah at school, past the library where I'd volunteered for 15 years, past the park where we'd had family picnics when Sarah was small, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just an ending, it was a beginning. The house looked different when I pulled into the driveway. It was mine now, truly mine. The garden, the creaky step on the front porch that I'd been meaning to fix, the kitchen where I'd cooked thousands of meals, the bedroom where I'd cried myself to sleep more times than I cared to count. All of it was mine to keep or change or reimagine however I wanted. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The afternoon light streamed through the windows, illuminating dust motes that floated lazily in the air. The house was quiet, but it didn't feel lonely. It felt peaceful. My phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. Isabel, this is David Sterling, Robert's attorney. His voice was tight, professional, but with an undercurrent of frustration. I'm calling because my client has just informed me that he missed this morning's hearing, and I need to understand. Mr. Sterling, I interrupted gently. I think you should probably speak with Judge Harrison or my attorney about what transpired this morning. I don't have anything to say to you. There was a pause. Mrs. Montgomery, I assure you that if there were any irregularities... Goodbye, Mr. Sterling. I ended the call. 3 hours later, Robert called. I didn't answer. He called again and again. Finally, he left a voicemail. Isabel, what the hell did you do? My attorney is telling me some insane story about the judge penalizing me because I missed one hearing. This is ridiculous. You need to call me back right now so we can straighten this out. I listened to the message twice, waiting to feel something. Anger, guilt, sadness, anything. But all I felt was tired. Tired of his excuses, tired of his blame, tired of carrying the weight of his failures. I didn't call him back. That evening, Sarah came over with Thai takeout and a bottle of wine. We sat in the living room, the same living room where we'd celebrated her college acceptance, where we'd mourned the death of our old dog Chester, where we'd wrapped Christmas presents and watched terrible reality TV shows together. Tell me everything, Sarah demanded, pouring us each a generous glass of wine. So I did. I told her about the altered documents, about Judge Harrison's righteous fury, about the settlement that was so much better than what we'd originally agreed to. Sarah listened, her eyes growing wider with each detail. Mom, that's incredible, she said when I finished. Dad really thought he could get away with changing the settlement terms. I guess so, I said, though I honestly don't know what he was thinking, or if he was thinking at all. He's been calling me too, Sarah admitted. wanting me to talk to you, to convince you to be reasonable. She made air quotes around the last two words. I told him that if he'd been reasonable, none of this would have happened. How did he respond to that? He hung up on me. Sarah shrugged. Not the first time, probably won't be the last. We ate our pad thai and drank our wine, and somewhere between the second glass and the third, I started to cry. Not sad tears exactly, more like relief tears, like my body was finally letting go of all the tension I'd been carrying for years. Sarah moved to sit beside me on the couch, wrapping her arms around me the way I'd done for her countless times when she was small. You're going to be okay, Mom, she whispered. Better than okay. Everyone keeps telling me that, I said, wiping my eyes. I'm starting to believe it. The next few weeks passed in a blur of paperwork and phone calls. Michelle handled most of it, keeping me informed but protecting me from the worst of Robert's attempts to contest the judgment. His attorney tried several tactics, claiming Robert had been ill that morning, arguing that the penalties were excessive, suggesting that I had somehow orchestrated the whole thing, but Judge Harrison denied every motion with what Michelle described as barely concealed contempt. In early November, the divorce was finalized. I received a certified letter in the mail confirming it, along with copies of all the relevant documents. I held that letter in my hands for a long time, reading and rereading the words that officially ended my marriage. Then I folded it carefully, placed it in a file folder labeled New Beginnings, and put it away in the den file cabinet. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went out to dinner alone. Not sadly alone, not pitifully alone, but contentedly alone. I chose a small Italian restaurant downtown that I'd always wanted to try, but Robert had always dismissed as too fancy or too expensive. I ordered pasta with truffle oil and a glass of excellent wine, and I sat there reading a novel I'd been meaning to get to for months. The waiter, a kind-faced man probably in his 30s, asked if I was celebrating anything special. Actually, yes, I told him. My independence. He smiled. Well then, dessert is on the house. As I ate my tiramisu and watched other diners around me, couples on dates, families with small children, groups of friends laughing over shared plates, I realized something important. I'd spent so much of my life measuring my worth by my relationship with Robert, by my role as his wife, that I'd forgotten how to just be Isabel. But she was still here. I was still here. 62 years old, finally divorced, financially secure for the first time in my life, and sitting in a restaurant eating really good tiramisu. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but maybe, just maybe, it was going to be even better. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Margaret from Book Club. We're meeting Thursday at 7 p.m. at Barnes & Noble if you're interested in joining us. Sandra gave me your number. Hope that's okay. I'd mentioned to Sandra, a woman I'd met at the library last month, that I'd love to join a book club but had never had the time. Apparently, she'd remembered. I typed back, I'd love to come. Thank you for including me. As I walked to my car later that evening, the Portland night air crisp and clear, I thought about all the texts I might receive in the coming months and years. Invitations to book clubs and coffee dates, messages from Sarah about weekend plans, maybe even, who knows, texts from someone new who might want to get to know me, not as Robert's wife or Sarah's mother, but just as Isabel. The settlement file sat in my car's passenger seat where I'd left it that first day. I'd meant to bring it inside, but had kept forgetting. Or maybe I'd left it there on purpose, a reminder of what I'd walked away with, not just money or property, but proof that I deserved better, that I was worth more than I'd been settling for. When I got home, I finally carried the file inside, but instead of filing it away with all the other documents, I did something different. I took out the page showing the final judgment, the one with Judge Harrison's signature and the court seal, and I framed it. Not because I wanted to gloat or hold on to anger, but because I wanted to remember this moment, the moment when someone in authority looked at my situation and said, "This woman deserves justice." I hung it in my bedroom, on the wall opposite my bed. The first thing I'd see when I woke up each morning, and the last thing I'd see before I went to sleep each night. A reminder that my ex-husband had left me at the courthouse that day, thinking he'd won. But I was the one who walked out with the settlement file, and with something far more valuable, my future, finally my own.